All right on. What do you get? What's your go-to order?
I'm basic, just black coffee, black iced coffee,
For real?
iced Americano usually. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Tony. I'm the host of the KSP podcast here, and I have a special guest here with me today, Jonnie Park, Dumbfoundead. How you doing, man?
Thanks for having me, man. Right in the neighborhood, very convenient.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said you walked here.
I did. I walked over here, which makes it much more authentic, I feel like, just being from the neighborhood. Of course, parking is horrific here. I always said I'm going to find love before I find parking in Koreatown.
Yeah, how's that working?
I don't know. It could be either one of those first. We'll see. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I breezed through that, but I do have an intro.
Okay, yeah, please. Yeah.
Writer, rapper, actor, K-Town icon, a former photo of a mural. You were in a mural at one point.
I was.
All of those things.
Not dead.
No, not yet. No.
It's still alive.
Dumbfoundead, Jonnie Park, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're going to be our co-host. Our co-MC.
Yeah.
For the upcoming KYCC benefit concert. It's
Yeah.
50 years of KYCC.
That's amazing. When I heard 50 years, I mean, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Almost as old as hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get
How
into
old
that.
is hip hop? Is hip hop 50 or
52? Maybe
52?
52. I think 2023 was the 50th.
Hip hop is what we call in the Korean community an ajashi.
An ajashi. What is that?
That is an old man. that is the age of hip hop. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
Okay, but before I get into that and talking about hip hop, 50 years. You're gonna be co-emceeing with Suzy Sa. What is your relationship with KYCC? Is this the first time you're connecting with us? Have you connected with us before?
I feel like when I was younger, I've done stuff where I had a group of like local rappers do some grassroots events, and I think we've collaborated on some events, but really not much, to be honest, except a few years back, I did a small donation after I was just raising money, figuring out where the money should go. I donated to KYC and another organization called Brazil Foundation that I was a part of when I was younger. But we've always been in chats and cross paths. Yeah.
Yeah. Why was it important for you to donate that money to KYCC and to the other organization?
Well, I just feel like Koreatown, a lot of people know Koreatown for its nightlife and food. And I feel like that's great and all, but I always wanted more community centers and youth centers and projects and things happening in Koreatown that really push the arts forward and things like that. So that felt appropriate, to donate to the organizations that's actually been here and have been doing that, and still maybe people may not be familiar with. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you have a long history with being involved with organizations, even coming up, Before we started the interview, you mentioned Kiwa and, working with them and also supporting with the could you remind me the name of the?
Juice. Yeah.
And also the other freestyle.
Project Blowed.
Sorry, the one in Kiwa.
Jikun Flow.
Jikun Flow, yes. Yeah.
A clever name there off of Bruce Lee's Jikun Do. It's funny because all these places that I used to rap at, they're originally community centers or some sort of organization that does, work in the community that's just pretty much providing us a space to rap in. We mentioned Juice. That's at a local church in Koreatown that does a lot of community events. Brazil Foundation is a youth center. They let us rap in that space. Project Blowed in Leimert Park is from this gentleman named Ben Caldwell, who runs the Chaos Network.
Yeah.
That's a big arts center, a community center in Leimert Park. So, and Kiwa, who works with, immigrant workers, it's like all these spaces that they just gave us is like just to provide a space for us to rap, So I find that really interesting. I didn't even think about it because all I wanted was a place to rap. And then that's when I found out about these greater organizations.
Yeah, for sure. I think about also my history, and I grew up going to the Boys and Girls Club in East LA, and I feel like a lot of my creativity and a lot of like my want to be creative comes from that, being nurtured by that.
Sure.
So it's cool to see that, but also going back to hip hop, even when we think about like the origins of hip hop, right? It started at a community center, right?
Yeah.
With all these things happening. So it's cool to see that you're bringing that and brought that to K-Town and still continue to bring
I mean, I didn't realize how much a safe space means to cultivating creativity. You know, I look back on my career and everything we just talked about, these spaces, like it may sound simple, like here, just use this space, but like having a space where you feel safe and you're around peers, like it means something, you know what I mean? And I think like we didn't have a lot of that. I didn't have a lot of that growing up. You know, I'm just like roaming the streets looking for a place to do that. But when you have that place and it's specifically for that one thing, it just like really helps it grow.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I want to ask you, maybe this isn't, where do you feel like you first got the permission to be creative?
Ooh, that's a good question. First got the permission.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. It's like, I don't even feel like it's like permission. I felt like I was a little bit everywhere. I was scattered brain. I almost had too much freedom almost in a way because my parents were so busy working, like most immigrant parents. Like I was a latchkey child, which allowed me to roam the streets and get into a lot of trouble too. Not just all good things came out of it. Luckily, I was able to discover music and an outlet to express myself. But like, really, when I went into these spaces, some of the rules of being able to use that space, I think, is what really grew my creativity with like actual parameters and stuff. Yeah. Like this open mic I used to go to Leimert Park, like they would tell rappers like you couldn't really curse.
Oh,
Project Blowed, and a lot of the black rappers who would go there, like you couldn't use the N-word.
Oh wow!
So when they set those rules for a lot of the rappers there, we were finding like ways to not curse, which is hard when you're a young rapper trying to just you're expressing yourself freestyle. Anything may come out, but because of that, when you see some of the rappers there, the styles are so interesting and it's different and it's weird. And I think some of those parameters set around us, like, before when I was breaking rules before learning them. And once I learned the rules and learned the foundation, it cleaned up my craft a lot more.
Okay.
So I would say like, I didn't have a lot of mentors until I did. And when I did have the mentors, it kind of really allowed me to take it to the next level. Yeah.
Who was one of your first mentors?
One of my first mentors, I would say, was at the Brazil Foundation. I was 12 years old. I met this old Jewish man who quit his job at Warner Brothers to work with kids at Brazil and teach filmmaking and stuff. He was a writer, director, and that got me into filmmaking at that age, at 12.
Oh, wow.
So I was making little short films and documentaries. This was before I wanted to even be a rapper. I was into like filming. So
yeah,
and that's all thanks to that community center. I got into filming because of this guy who got tired of Hollywood, and he was like, yeah, as I'm trying to pursue a job in Hollywood. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that because I remember growing up, even staying after school to these after school programs. I know there was like things that were like, we had mentors, people that were like supporting our creativity. And I remember I was a part of a play, and I just remember one line that I remember, which is like oral history is tradition and stuff like that. And it's funny because now that's what I do here.
Yeah, storytelling.
Oral history and storytelling. Yeah. But do you remember what was one of your first films and what was the idea?
I did a lot of documentaries, and I think I did a piece about. It was about like some graffiti mural that was going up in South Central, and I was like documenting the artist and what was going on the block around rules of graffiti and mural. It was kind of boring, to be honest. It was not that great, but it was just kind of like getting my feet wet, figuring how to tell the story, how to edit, and all of that stuff. But the more interesting thing was that my mentor was putting me onto a lot of great filmmakers and from the beginning, like Buster Keaton, like Charlie Chaplin.
Wow.
These are like black and white silent films. And I'd see the things that Buster Keaton was doing. I was like, damn, this is crazy that this thing was almost like 60 years ago or 70 years ago. And that was really kind of cool to see. It made me realize like whatever thing that we were doing now, there's always been somebody who did a version of it way back then. So that was really inspiring. Yeah.
Right on. Speaking about mentors as well, I think one of the your name is very synonymous with K-Town, right? In my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. But I think also when I think of mentors, I think for you specifically, Brian Lee.
Oh, yeah.
He played, and also making your name synonymous with K-Town.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the research, I got to say. Brian Lee is somebody who, when I was first starting to rap and wanting to take it professionally, I wanted to take some like press photos. So one of my homegirls, Toki Monsta, she's a Korean-American electronic DJ who's also in her own right a trailblazer in the Korean community, introduced me to a college friend, this dude named Brian Lee, who's taking photos for fun. So she was like, if you need press photos, you can get some, free photos. So this dude comes, he's taking my photos, and he's just asking me questions like while he's taking the photos, like, hey, what's your like 5-year goal? And I'm like, I don't think about no 5-year goals. Like I'm a freestyle rapper. Right? Not only do I freestyle rap, I freestyle my life, day by day. But he got me really thinking about what I'm trying to do with my music, what I'm trying to say, where I'm trying to go. And that made me really, really think about that. And he helped me really create a small business essentially for what I was doing with my music and craft and trying to, actually make money off of this. Yeah. Because I think when I was young, and I think every artist should go through this, not think about money and just think about getting better at your craft. Like, I would go places to perform or freestyle or battle and then come back home broker than I left the house. And while I'm going to sleep, I'm like all in a day's work. Like I just like put in mad work or something,
Yeah.
And it felt good. Like I still felt rich, and I was rich. I was rich in just fulfillment. I was fulfilled, and, But he was the one who came in and was like, yo, if you really want to do this and you really want to make it a system where you will still make money off of what you love and sharing your art, like you got to get organized, you got to get focused. So he was definitely one of the first disciplinary figures in my life. I had a pretty chaotic upbringing with my parents. My parents fought every day in the house since I was little. I don't remember like a happy moment between them. My dad was an alcoholic, abusive. And like once I left the house into the streets of LA, I was so lucky to find some of these figures. It's like the Brian Lees, the guy, Seth Eklund and Brazil Foundation, who's a creative director now. But when I was there, he was just a counselor with a guitar and just a hippie counselor dude. Ben Caldwell at Project Blowed, Akiwa, like all these community organizers who were not making much money on their own but cared so much about the kids and the community they were working with. They made such a difference in me. I obviously had the other side that was bad too. I was getting into trouble. I was getting into drugs, alcohol, partying, and all of that. But if I didn't have that second half of figures in my life, like it could have gone completely a different direction. Yeah.
Most definitely. And I think that's that's also like a large part of your name and being very synonymous with K-Town is being outside, right? And being able to be in these different spaces.
Sure.
People being able to know you. But how has K-Town specifically, influenced your art? How has it shaped your creativity?
It's so funny. I've been through such a journey with Koreatown and what it means to me personally. I when I was just growing up here, I didn't grow up with many Koreans. I grew up with mostly the Latino community here in K-Town. When I was skateboarding, it was all Mexican, Salvadorian, Guatemalan friends. And I did feel like the Korean kids here had like a very strong a sense of identity about themselves, which I actually always admired. Even if I was the weirdo Korean kid amongst that group and I didn't necessarily get along with them or we didn't hang in the same circles, like in hindsight, I look at those kids who are crouched down doing the Asian squat in a parking lot smoking cigarettes while wearing K-Swisses and driving Honda Civics that are looking like rice rockets and
now you remember
had bangs and long white tees. Like that was the first time in America I felt like there was actually an Asian identity. It was an AZN identity in the 90s and early 2000s. And when you look at that, there is an actual like identity of what being Asian American was. And there was a look to it. There were hobbies that were included. There were so many things. And I wasn't necessarily part of that, you know. I was like kind of like the stoner outcast, like skateboarder kid. But when I see those kids in hindsight, the one thing they did have was they had Asian pride. Like they were prideful of who they were. When there were a lot of Asian kids, and you hear these stories now even in Asian Hollywood, right? All these Asian kids who grew up and they're like, I didn't know I was whitewashed, or I wasn't sure, like I was embarrassed to be Asian. There were kids in K-Town who were proud as hell to be Asian back then, which to me is like trailblazing in a way, like to have such a sense of identity at that time. So I think growing up here and having it taught me those kids taught me a lot too. But hip hop was like the big factor of a thing that made me really proud of who I am, because hip hop is an art form where I went to Leimert Park and everyone there was unapologetically black. Like all the black kids was, and not only that, like Leimert Park has a rich history in African American culture with jazz, and you know, just there's an African American museum there. So when I saw that, it didn't make me want to be black. It made me know that the people who get respect are the ones who are proud of who they are, and they don't run from it. No one respects anyone who isn't proud of who they are. So them witnessing unapologetic blackness like made me unapologetically Asian, unapologetically Korean. I didn't run away from it after that. I talked about it like head on in my music and everything that I talk about, my storytelling, interviews, everything. I made it a big part of who I am. And not just Korean or Korean American, but Koreatown. Like it got more and more specific and specific, you know, down to the block. Yeah.
Yeah, like a rapper for sure.
Straight
for
up,
sure.
yeah.
But you know what, like when I think of that and identity in music, I think of like specific albums, you know, like for sure like Tribe Called Quest, right? And then for me, like Freestyle Fellowship,
Yeah,
people like
Freestyle
that.
Fellowship, one of my biggest heroes too.
Jurassic 5.
Yeah.
So and you know, we had a series earlier this year on music in Koreatown, and a lot of people point back to you. They're like, yeah, like Dumbfoundead was out there with Verbs, you know, and
I'm honored.
and stuff like that.
Verbs,
and like,
damn, okay.
And open Mike Ego, and we're
Yeah.
like, oh damn, like it traces back to that as well.
Yeah.
Were there projects, people specifically that you felt like really influenced the that approach on identity?
Yeah, you know, it's so crazy. I was listening to like one of my first albums named after it was named Fun with Dumb before even my podcast. That's where I got my podcast name. But Fun with Dumb, which I made around 18 or 19, around like maybe 17 actually. I don't even know. The year is on the Spotify thing, but I have a song called like K-Town Story, you know, where I flip like Slick Rick's children's story and I like make a K-Town version of it. And it's so funny. It's like it talks about little things like Korean taxis where they had like the number on the lighter and you call and they'd be like, this was before Uber. Like it'd be for $3 you can get around different parts of K-Town. And like just so it's cool to hear like little things that's etched in history through lyrics that don't exist anymore. But yeah, all those early, I was big into storytelling. It's funny because I think as I got a little older, I wouldn't say fully went away from straight on storytelling, but all my first albums was like straight storytelling. I have full on skits and, you know, like I'm doing voices and like I was a really nerdy rapper. Like I did a lot of storytelling. I did voices. I did a lot of like just really nerdy tales, you know, of being a teenager in Los Angeles that's going through puberty. Oh, like it's just, you could hear it in all the lyrics. So I do love it. Sometimes I go back to my older stuff to inspire me now because I'm like, damn, I was able to do this before. I can do it, and it inspires me to create now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, storytelling is big right now, especially with Kendrick winning that whole battle, you know, that whole last couple of years.
Yeah, Kendrick's a big inspiration in that sense. You know, Good Kid, Mad City, you hear that album and you just hear so much storytelling. And that's the kind of artists that we don't have much in hip hop, I think, as much as we used to. So it's nice to see somebody on top that still lives by that. Yeah.
I kind of want to touch on that a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, please. Yeah.
I know that you've worked with the OVO camp and with Drake before with the freestyle.
I mean, I wouldn't say I've worked with him, but Drake did. No, I'm just saying Drake has looked out for the battle rap community.
Yeah,
he's thrown events in Toronto. He's flown me out to do battles back in the day.
Yeah.
In Toronto, so Drake's definitely been part of the culture.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Have you worked with Kendrick? Has that?
No. I've never crossed paths with him, but I look up to him for sure.
Yeah.
He used to come to Bananas, which is an event that Verbs used to throw at Project Blood. So there's definitely intersections of like LA hip hop culture with Kendrick and Absol, all those guys, Schoolboy Q. They've been a part of a lot of the stuff. Yeah,
for sure. But even like seeing these last couple of years with hip hop and like really like being battle rap, reaching those heights, right? Those mainstream heights. How was it for you seeing it from the outside, being like, whoa, like battle rap is, it's at a mainstream approach, but it's there.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it's like everything doesn't have to be mainstream. There's things that build up a great following, and it has a community, and there's a subculture to it, and it means a lot to the people who are involved in it. And I think battle rap it has its own community. It has its leagues all over the world, and in different multiple languages they battle. And it's really like, it's poetry, right? It's like, I don't know how familiar you are with the modern landscape of battling, but there's no beat. It's a cappella.
Yeah, a cappella, right.
So it has elements of like theater, spoken word, rap, stand-up comedy, all in one. And it's fascinating when I see it. I do think it's a very underrated art form, in my opinion. People really spend time crafting these rhymes for these battles, so it's not just like how it used to be. Early on when I first started battle rapping, you sign up on a sign-up sheet, and they'd call two random names up on stage. They put on a beat, and you start talking about each other's shoes and mom, like how dirty your shoes are or your mom. Now it's far more intricate. They go into like politics. They break down, they might say something like stereotypically or culturally insensitive, but it's really well crafted, so I think it's very underrated. A lot of stuff that I develop in TV and film, I've always been trying to develop something battle rap related. Yeah.
Because now you're more into like acting, writing, right, and all of that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about just because it came up on my feed earlier this week, but Open Mike Eagle.
Yeah. Didn't he just put out an album?
He just put out an album. I wanted to ask you if you've heard it.
I haven't heard it yet, but Open Mike Eagle is one of the people from my crew that I still keep up with, and we keep in touch because he's another guy who's transcended like just the rap game and gone into pod, TV, film. He's a TV writer as well.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant, man. Like, I met him when I was probably 16 or 17. He had just moved from Chicago and went to Project Blowed, and we were like, who the hell is this? That's how I formed my crew in Project Blowed, swim team, right? It was at that time when I was like 16. I saw around me all the best rappers. Like, it was me and 7 of us at Project Blowed, and we were just like, why don't we just become this one super crew? And we did, and we became swim team. Yeah,
right on. Cool. So I want to talk about also your podcast, right?
Okay.
Because there was a hiatus. I saw you recently post.
I did. I'm bringing it back. Yeah, I'm bringing it back. We're having a different name, but you're talking about the Fun with Dumb podcast. Yeah. I'm bringing it back. And you know what? I'm bringing it back because I just miss talking about things with my 2 co-hosts, Rick Lee and Steffi Bake. Just things that we really enjoyed meeting up weekly, talking about K-Town, talking about past trauma, family trauma, like a lot of these things that we have similar experiences, and I think those are the things that people connected to. As soon as we quit, I had tons of people come up to me like, why'd you quit the pod? I listen to it all the time. I was like, I didn't know. I didn't feel the support. Where the hell were y'all then? So
yeah. I mean, something you were saying on the last episode was somebody give me 75K.
I know. But you know what? It's not even. I mean, it's so funny because at the time it was tough to keep anything going without any funding. But after that, like I booked something that like I'm like I don't need the money for that. I'll just do that for my mental health. Do that podcast.
Right on, yeah.
It's just funny doing a podcast instead of therapy.
I know.
That like men will do anything except men will do everything except like therapy.
Yeah. Is this the podcast you come to before? Is this the in between podcast, our podcast, or no?
Yeah, what?
Like from your hiatus to be the
I know I haven't, this feels good because I haven't podded in a while.
Okay, cool.
Like I haven't even gone on a friend's pod in a while, so this is nice to like let it all out.
Cool. But from that podcast, you got the opportunity to connect with Beef, right? With the show Beef, and now you're a writer for the second season of Beef.
Yeah. I was in the writer's room for season 2 of Beef, which was an amazing experience. Lee Sung-jin, who's the creator of the show, was also a fan of my podcast. And he just hit me out of the blue asking me if I wanted to write for the show. I think he just, when he was listening to my podcast, he saw like kind of similarities in things that interested him and things he might want to talk about in the show. So, I mean, he gave me an opportunity, I wasn't an experienced writer or anything, but it was such a great experience for me. So I'm forever grateful for him, giving me my start, I think, as a writer in Hollywood. Yeah.
It was such a success, the first season. Is there something that you're trying to bring in differently to the second season as someone that's now in the writing room?
I mean, I can't talk much about it, but it was all a group effort. I mean, it's a writer's room, so it was just all of us in there together bouncing around tons of ideas. But I can say the second season is very relevant to what's going on, I think, in the world with generational gaps and how different generations survive in this world, whether it's financially or mental health wise, how we deal with it. It's a beef between two different generations.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. You know what we try to do here at KSP is we try to bring together generations. But
there is a divide, I mean, it's
sure.
not just a beef between them, but like the divide that exists in this country and how, the lack of hope for a younger generation almost, and how for certain older generation, there might have been more of this infrastructure set up for them to thrive more, so there is a divide there.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of that, of like connecting generations and talking about different generations, I want to talk about you speaking with your family about their migration story, and how those are two different generations as well, right? Your parents and your own, and learning from that they went from Korea to Argentina and here in K-Town in LA, learning the details about that journey. How does that impact you hearing that, like, when you recently heard that?
Yeah, I mean, so this is interesting because I'm almost done writing a memoir that'll come out early next year, and we're gonna announce that actually in the next few weeks. But I'm just gonna say it here. It's fine. It's called Spit, and cool. It's a memoir that focuses on my upbringing up until like early 20s, where like a lot of the rap stuff was happening and how battle rap really shaped who I am and everything. But I interviewed my mom, and I had never done that. I hired a translator. I sat down with my mom, asked her all these questions about her immigration journey here. Where I was 3 years old, my younger sister was 1, and she had these 2 babies with her and snuck in through the Mexican border with coyotes, and it was through like Texas, and I didn't even know that part. Like I just knew like she came in, but I just assumed it was through like California or something, but it was apparently through Texas. It was like a 10-day journey or something, and it was like multiple families, and just hearing the details of it, I was like, this is crazy. This is so crazy. Like I didn't have to really worry. I was a baby. Like I don't remember anything, but just imagining her as this tiny Korean woman holding these 2 Asian babies is like insane. But it's great. Like it's the resilience, and like it's so tough. Like I know like I didn't have the greatest upbringing with my dad and mom in the household growing up, but also I gotta respect like their journey alone, and then you gotta at some point be able to deal with that and have some, if you're trying to have some sort of relationship. Even with my dad, I've seen my dad do awful things, having any kind of relationship is tough, but you decide to make a decision if you are gonna have a relationship or not, and are you gonna respect all the things that he still did prior to the horrible things. You know, I'm still grateful that I had a roof under my head and my dad did provide, you know, up until a certain point, you know. So it's all these difficult things that I kind of talk about in the book as well. But yeah, like I'm very grateful for the circumstances kind of that led me here. And
yeah, and I mean that story is also really, I mean, relevant to what's going on right now, even here in Los Angeles, right? A lot of the attacks on the migrant community that's happening. So I'm really looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that's why I empathize so much with what's going on here. You know, I know it's just like a crazy time. And it's like I'm more baffled by the lack of empathy. Like when I see the comments and stuff like under these ICE posts.
Yeah.
The lack of empathy of it all, it just feels like a lot of privileged people saying stuff about we like immigrants as long as they do the paperwork properly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, they don't even know the process really, you know, and that there's so many difficulties there. And it's just funny that everyone's somehow turned into a border patrol and like government official talking about paperwork. Like, it just seems like the most uncool shit. Like, you know, I just don't like if I snuck in the movie theater and there's a guy behind me, I'm not gonna close the door behind me after I sneak in. You know, it's just like, God, everyone's such a dweeb now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that builds onto that, right? Even thinking about our own parents' migration or whatnot, there's so many systems that help like make us into these lack of empathy people, right?
That's true. Yeah, and there must be something in the air.
Yeah. So I'm glad that, like, you know, that we do have these organizations that help build that empathy and make sure that it's not erased. And
100%.
For sure.
Very grateful.
Yeah. You know, I also want to talk about your acting. You recently came out in this movie called Sweet Dreams.
Yeah, it's about recovery, like a recovery home. Yeah.
And
sober living.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you write on one of the captions about how impactful that movie was into your own journey with your own personal things that you're working through. How is that? How does the music, how does the art like impact your approach on life? Yeah, and vice versa.
I mean, you know, I think just growing up in K-Town and in a culture where like drinking culture is prevalent in this neighborhood. You know, I think that's clear. Like, people drink and especially when you rep Koreatown, like, people want to see you take a shot of soju, you know? Like, I mean, anywhere I go in K-Town, someone wants to buy me a shot of soju, you know? And you got to find ways to balance that for yourself. And that comes with the territory of people wanting to celebrate with you. I get that, you know? But it can get dangerous too. So I think I definitely had a problem too. And it was very scary in a way where I saw it all my life with my father. And it's scary when you see yourself turning into your father, you know, and you never think you would.
Yeah.
Because you've seen him do awful things and you're like, I would never.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're drunk as hell looking in the mirror like, what's become of you? Yeah. But it was, I've learned to really navigate it, I think. You know, it's always it's a roller coaster, it's a journey. But like, the movie was great. The director is a big part of the AA community, and a lot of the people. It's about sober living, so there's like an oddball group of characters in this house, including Johnny Knoxville, Theo Vaughn, Bobby Lee, Mo Amer, Gata from Dave. A lot of funny, hilarious people, and I got to be a part of this amazing, like, weird Avengers of comedians, you know. And they get along, and you learn about like their journeys, and then they form like a softball team. So it's also kind of like a sports movie.
Yeah. Kind of like Longest Yard.
Yeah, in a way. And then afterwards, I'm just being in the movie. Like, I learned a lot about recovery because Bobby's a recovering addict too. Bobby was he's been sober for like 15 years, something like that, like many years. Theo Vaughn's recovery, Lige, the director, is in recovery as well. So I learned so much about that. And right after that, I went sober for quite a while. But it's made a permanent effect. Like I just completely approach everything differently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Was there something that they said? Was there something within the film specifically that you feel like kind of like pushed you or triggered that approach?
Well, I mean, I'm just surrounded by amazing creative people who are thriving in their careers, you know, and they just talked about their lowest points and how things did change for them. So
yeah,
I think just being around those testimonies is going to change you somehow,
sure.
you know?
Yeah. Doing along with friends, cool. Speaking of friends that you do films with and along with is Anderson .Paak. Right?
Yeah.
Y'all put out K-Pops.
Yeah. Me and Anderson came up together. I mean, that's another amazing story, just witnessing him, because I've seen him from day one, sleeping on my floor, to being 9-time Grammy Award musician, and arguably one of the greatest musicians in modern music, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Breezy Lovejoy, right? I saw that one video of you, him, and his child all in the studio,
when it was a baby,
right? When
yeah.
He was a baby.
Yeah.
And how, you know, and that trio is what also, like, you know, what's inspired the K-Pops, right?
Yeah. So Anderson directed his first movie. It premiered at Tribeca and TIFF. It's called K-Pops, and it's a really like Black and Asian story. It really combines those two cultures together because he's part Korean and his ex-wife is full Korean, so his son is like majority Korean. And I think when he was younger, during lockdown, they were putting up these like TikToks, and it was really funny because like his son was a huge BTS fan, and then Anderson would try to teach him about like, son, you know BTS, but how about BET? and then he was so cute, this kid. He's just like, no, BTS. And he's like, no, BET. BET. And it just went back and forth. So we went to a studio and we pitched it like the skeleton of the story, but we just showed that TikTok, and they kind of automatically got it, that it was going to be like a father and son story, but also like him teaching him about like the origins of K-pop that stem from Black music, you know? And his son teaching him more about the Korean side. So we shot half of it here, we shot half of it in Korea, and it's coming out in theaters in January.
Oh, cool.
So we're excited about that, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do want to end it with this question.
Sure.
But this question comes with a photo. So what did Koreatown look like for you around this time?
Oh, yeah. These are actually my first ever press photos. Actually, this it's not from Brian Lee, actually. Okay. So this was actually even before that. So I'm probably like 17, 18 here, probably, which I look younger because I think I just was a skinny Asian kid. But this is a cool picture, too, because I'm wearing a Los Angeles Raiders shirt, which is like an old LA shirt. But this was in MacArthur Park and Chateau. So that's why it's cool. It's like both of those places that's so iconic to Los Angeles. And I lived in a studio apartment called the Asbury, which is right across the street from MacArthur Park. It was absolutely like roach infested, crazy, like insane. Yeah. But this was shot. These were shot by an amazing artist at the time who was documenting a lot of the underground hip hop scene. His name was Bastard Artist. Super cool. Like if he wasn't taking photos around the LA scene, like all of the old stuff would have never been documented. So I really appreciate photographers, videographers who film stuff, and they're historians, you know?
For sure.
So, this was like me rapping at Juice, rapping at Project Blowed, figuring out, you know, who I was going to be as a rapper. This was Dumbfoundead right here. This was when Jonathan Park turned into Dumbfoundead.
So that's a transition point.
Yeah, I would say. I got my name a little before this, but I went through a bunch of terrible rap names to get to Dumbfoundead, which is ironic because that's pretty bad too.
But what did Koreatown look like around?
Oh, what did Koreatown look like? Koreatown was, I mean, to be honest, like I don't like people talk about Koreatown changing so much. Like it still has so many of the same elements of when I was growing up. You know, a lot of these Korean food is still everywhere. I mean, I always say this. I think we got lucky in a sense that Korean culture became a phenomenon, because it became so global and popular. A lot of the businesses here didn't have to really change up their food or the business because people want to experience that. People come here for Korean food because Korean food is popular.
Yeah.
So in a sense, culturally, I think Koreatown is very lucky because Korean culture is so popular.
Yeah.
Literally the global top 10 on Billboard right now has 4 or 5 Korean songs. A lot of them are from K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix.
Okay.
But literally they're Korean K-pop songs, which is crazy to think about. SoFi Stadium 2 days with Blackpink this past weekend. Wow. It's insane. Sold out.
Yeah.
So it's insanely popular. So people come here to experience the culture, and it does help. It does make a difference, right? Yeah, sure. I see, Korea boos walking around K-Town looking for a K-pop record store or coming in for some sort of convention that's happening or a concert that's happening, staying at the Line Hotel or whatever. But has Koreatown changed? Yes. Korean culture has changed. It wasn't as popular when I was growing up. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
I was definitely in the spaces that I was at, being the only Korean there, a lot of people did not know about Koreans. Yeah. I went to Project Blowed. They just, I got Jackie Chan jokes or whatever, but they didn't know anything about Korea. You know what I'm saying? They didn't know about any of that. So now, would you say they did? Yeah, they'll know. They'll know Squid Games. They'll know Parasite. They'll know K-pop. For sure. They know Korean food. So they just, I think people are more knowledgeable about every culture, but maybe a little more about Korean culture because you see it a lot now. So feel lucky. I mean, that's the thing. It's a lot of these things you don't know. You don't know about where the world is going to go with what they get hooked on,
Yeah. And that kind of leads me to my last question. What do you envision for Koreatown? A lot of it is not knowing, but a lot of it is also hoping and us building that, right?
Yeah, I just hope that we have more programs like this, community centers and all of that, so we're not just synonymous to drinking and nightlife, karaoke and Korean barbecue. There needs to be things that uplift the young community here too, the young people. And I don't know if there's even enough programs, to be honest. I just don't think there is. And I feel like there's probably so many young kids here that are growing up that are still doing the same thing of the kids that I saw growing up, hanging out in a parking lot and drinking a 40 and smoking a cigarette. I still feel like there is, and that's because of a lack of programs and a lack of resources, and I'd like to see more of that than a new coffee shop or a new barbecue spot or karaoke popping up,
For sure. Jonnie Park.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming through.
Thanks for having me, guys.
House.
Yeah, This is the Treehouse?
Yeah, this is the Treehouse.
Okay, cool. I like it. All right.
KSP.
KYCC, KSP. Please support. Amazing stuff happening here.
Appreciate you. Awesome.
Thanks,
cool.
man.
Thank you.